Welcome everyone. This is Mind Culture Podcast, and today we have Chris Haring, who I imagine everyone knows by now. Is a very famous and popular Austrian choreographer touring around the world.
Yeah,
Has been
sometimes.
Maybe not in these circumstances. However, like if there was not this situation, then he'll probably be everywhere. Chris has been dancing before he started his huge choreographic career. He was dancing for Deviate and Nigel Sharmak, Willie Dorner, and many, many more. And as I understand, he started his career in choreography with the first listed piece that I found from '99 with collaboration together with Klaus Obermeier. And then his career took off with Biennale de Lyon, and he continues to be one of the main figures on the scene in Vienna and in Europe. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to have you here too.
I hope I didn't forget something.
No, I think you said too much actually, because the CVs, this is always something that you can read in the internet. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I started to choreograph. Actually, I'm older than I look like. I started to choreograph actually before, but this one was the one that was visible, Dave, in '99 with Klaus Obermeier, where they officially say it like now that this is this is a beginning of a career, so-called career.
Yeah, actually, this is the first thing I wanted to ask you because I'm really curious, because what I saw in this Dave, like in terms of movement language, really change from what you're doing right now. So but my first question would be, when did you realize that it's a thing that you're doing, and when did you realize that you actually took off, or has there been a moment like this?
There is never a taking off, actually. Like, you're happy every day that you can manage to survive with this job that we're doing. And actually, I'm still like curious to do what I'm doing. There is a moment where where at least in my personal daily life, it was like this, or in my working life, where you think like that other people are doing it much better than you could show it. Like, and these ideas are mostly these ideas that you bring on stage. It's not like something that you think at home and that comes up and that you give to somebody. It's always a kind of collaboration. It's networking. It's acting or reacting on on things that happen like nowadays outside.
Mhm.
And so I can't tell you. I don't know. I just remembered that when I was young, I was very interested in nothing, actually, first of all, because you always think like you're not good enough for something. But what I really found fascinated was like this kind of modern dance that I saw on TV, or in some we call it contemporary dance, or whatever techniques, like somebody doing something that is not just ballet, it's not just musical dance. People were dancing without music, and this fascinated me because I thought like, wow, there's something that you can jump on, that you can try out. I can do that, like everybody can do it, and you can tell things without like too much blah blah blah.
Mhm. I think this is really interesting that you say that dancing without music, because I think what you're doing is like one of the most musical dance that I've seen so far. Like, I mean, it's clearly on the music.
I think every
On the
dance
sound.
is musical. I think it, as not musical. It's very. It's always, you have to think in musical parameters. Otherwise, you cannot do choreography. You cannot do dance. You have to think about rhythm. Like volume, articulation, dynamics, speed, tempo, all these kind of things. And this is musical parameters. And I mean, I probably repeat myself because I always say it. I studied music before I studied dance. So, but what you learn there is something that is a kind of a language, is communication, it has to do with, it has a lot to do with communication, with a general communication with other human beings. And I think if you use sound or if you don't use sound, it doesn't matter, but it is musically. Our way of thinking is very musically, especially when you go on stage with it.
I think you can say this about yourself, especially because if you say that you studied music, then probably this is also influencing the whole way of how you think. Because I mean, I'm not an expert, but I can see that probably some choreographers would be less attached to the idea of musicality, whereas the other ones would be more. I mean, I grew up with music all day long, so I can relate to that. But then I can see some works that are not so musical. So it's like it's a secondary thing.
No, it's interesting because when you become professional, or if you're aware of it, if you can like write it down, if you can read the notations, for example, then you're aware of course of these kind of things. You can look at it from this perspective. But what is then interesting, for example, is somebody who is not aware of it. It's a bit like, how shall I say, you follow very nice the notes, you play your classic music, then you get, I don't know, involved in jazz suddenly, when you play an instrument. And then from there you go into free jazz, or you go into electronic music or whatever. And then you find people who produce their own work, who are very creative, and they're maybe autodidacts. They never learned these kind of things. And this is great because suddenly you are aware of it and you think like, now it must come, now the next jump comes, now this and this is, and they break all the rules. And that means like, if I would like have to write this down, like if I plan this, it would be a masterpiece, but they just do it. So
yeah, I mean, I can see a lot of this planned randomness in what you're doing in a way, like if I can use this word, because I think the breaking the expectation is what is actually captivating. I'm actually interested in your movement language, because we all say movement language this, movement language that. Like it seems to be their very important brand in order to be like an internationally recognized choreographer. And I can see that you develop something that is really unique to you, and that I hardly can see anyone doing something similar.
Sorry. He's
Yeah.
burning coffee. Yeah, sorry.
So that in a way that that it's a signature. So for example, I do a lot of breakdance practice, and it's very important for a dancer to have a signature movement that if someone else copies, it's a crime in a way. So, and when I see your style, it has a very signature like kind of quality. So I'm wondering, at what point did you realize that you have something like this, or did you ever realize that you have something like that? Because when I can see your work, I can see from far away that's Chris Haring.
Maybe what you can see is liquid loft, and this is a kind of method that we are using. And the thing is, with the signature, I don't know, I had, like as a dancer, I had my own signature, I would say. I had my like moves that I like to do that people might recognize. It's something that you call a so-called talent maybe, or something that you learned that you want to, that you just enjoy, that you maybe like to show also, and things like that. But the signature I think that we have now is it's a kind of a perspective. It's like how you look at the word. It's not just a movement. It's not a technique for sure, and it's not a movement quality, because I think what we're doing is like we collect movement qualities mostly from our dancers, from the people who join us, who work with us. And I have to say, it's like I can proudly say nowadays that it's a collaboration of all the people. Like we don't throw away things. We are collectors, and you collect. Of course, at the end, I'm the artistic director. I have to take somebody has to say the last word. Let's say it like this, or they say like, "Come on, guys, now we continue rehearsal. It's not a break anymore." That's me. But otherwise, as collectors, all of us have to take this responsibility to come up with something which is a serious work, even if it's funny sometimes.
Hey, come in. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Sorry, I recognize I'm bleeding here. I cut myself. I don't know if you can use this then now.
On what?
No. It was yesterday already. Thank you.
So my next thing is, but still, I mean, you collect and you do different things, but I have to say it's very shaped. Like you really have the last word. And maybe it's just the use of sound that actually produced a certain kind of quality, because there is something that is really uniting. Because if I look at all the pieces, I can always see something that's in common. So no, I think but maybe it's just natural process to every creator that it just becomes, united in a way.
I mean, if you, I saw you dancing, for example, also, yeah. I think it was with Elio. It's not last year. I don't know when it was,
2013.
And I think there is somebody who believes in what he's doing. That's what I saw. And there is many different opportunities. People have lots of ideas. I don't think there is anybody in our business who just does it like to be seen or to make money or something like this, yeah, or just because there's nothing else to do.
Well, that's not the business for it,
It's not the right business, exactly. Like, you have to take it serious, and in all of the time I'm into it, or I'm interested in it, or that I like look at the scene, is I never saw anybody who was not a kind of a scientist in what he or she was doing. It is very much of research. It takes it very serious, and I always like. It doesn't matter if somebody's a great dancer or not such a good dancer or not such a good performer, but what they all are, they're specialists, and it is fascinating to see. Like because they deal so much with their own body. You have to trust your body in order to do that. And you have to believe in your body also. And you have to believe in some certain kind of contemporary ideas nowadays, I would say, if you do contemporary dance. And then you become a specialist. And when you are a specialist, then people have to accept this and have to respect this. And I think this is what we are all doing. And some of them have a better way of like transporting the ideas, and some of them maybe a bit complicated or not always like so advanced in their communication with the body. No, advanced is not the right word. Not always so lucky.
Yeah, I mean, there are for sure fashions of how you're supposed to move at a certain period of time. I have the feeling like what is fashionable at the moment is this, and then something else.
But I think that's very visible also for the audience. Those people who are interested in it, they see like, is there really somebody who wants to say something, or somebody? It can be also nice if somebody is there who enjoys him or herself, and that's also nice.
Right, of course. Yeah, I can see that you are, what I read, cyborg theory, science fiction. You are a big fan in a way, from how I understand of. Is it a question that I'm not supposed to?
No. It's just like, it's again, you go back to this CV that is written down in the internet that you find. Yeah.
But
there was a time when it was great. Yeah. And I think still that science fiction is like the best way of reflecting the world, because especially neuro science fiction, because it's half fantasy and half reality. And in this case, I think it's a good way of looking at body politics. It gives you a good possibility. But if you come back now to science fiction, if you use these words like cyborg theory, this, that, blah, blah, it's very old terms. It's like we would talk about new dance now, yeah, or conduct improvisation or something.
Absolutely.
It's great, but it's a certain time period also. Yeah.
But then with certain time period, like, because you were interested back in the days in this, and I'm wondering like how you reflect, or for example, on the on certain aspects. So I'm interested both on what happens right now in the lockdown with people, but also generally what happens with the society and with us as individuals in this web. Because in a way, I have the feeling that we are already cyborgs with our phones. Like the knowledge is already expanding to the virtual reality. Like no one anymore knows a thing. They know how to find a thing. Like they don't remember anymore the title of a song. They just know what words they have to write in their own personal YouTube search to find this one song. So I'm wondering, what kind of perspective does it give you on how you were thinking back in the days? Because I imagine like this came about to your work like kind of before the huge popularity of internet and social media, and I'm wondering like, yeah, how do you reflect on this development of us as human beings in a way? Or do you reflect on this?
That's a good question.
Do you just leave with that?
Do I reflect? I mean, what else should you do? That's our business, as I said before. You have to reflect what is happening with us. But and I think everybody is reflecting it. It doesn't matter what you're doing, in which kind of, like, let's say in art, you have to reflect the word, you have to reflect the body. I think it's more matter of what kind of let's say theories you're using. And the older you get, the more you find out that the theory is something that you can get out of everything. Like I have friends, for example, that comes in my mind, somebody who was a completely like totally fixed on this idea of the cyberpunk, and then going into all these kind of technology ideas and what comes out in the future. And there was lots of like theoretical discourse, and that was the theory. And then, for example, you get kids, and suddenly he was totally in this plate theory, like how neuropsychology, or how the kids develop, and then he became he was like reflecting gardens, for example, and found his theory in there and brought it back into his work, into his art. So at this time, what you were saying in the beginning, it was super nice in the 90s it was the only possibility, in my opinion, to continue with this kind of idea of what is the body here and what are we doing now. Like just this, the virtuality came up a lot, and it was affordable also. Like on stage, you could use suddenly a video beamer. You had virtuality there. As soon as you used something like I don't know what was there at this time, a photograph or a projection on stage, it was a multimedia piece and things like this. So you could, it was almost like you fed the people's hunger for like this kind of new technology idea, and the body was standing there in the middle and like getting completely confused next to projections and the idea of avatars and the cyborg, the cybernetic organism, like a half human, half machine. Old ideas, like really old ideas. For like the first movie, for example, was a science fiction movie actually, or this idea of, we had once a research in Hamburg with different like artists, scientists, I don't know, well, musicians, a philosopher. It was called Cyborg Moves, and we checked all the old science fiction movies going back to the 20s with this on this view of like what did they think how the body will move in the future. And that was, in my opinion, that is something that shows a lot like how naive we are on one side, and on the other side how hard we are trying to become something that we thought like we will be in the past.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, maybe I get lost now.
No, but
don't remember your
really
question.
interesting. I also used to work on like one piece where I was like also working directly into actually this kind of research that you say, like science fiction, like watching through all the movies back in the days. Like literally we did that as well. And it's really interesting like how people project the future and how inaccurate or accurate this is. Like I find the literary sources always a little bit more accurate because they deal
the literature.
Yeah, they deal a little bit less with visual representations and they deal more with like concepts that are often going to be true, like flat screens or video calls. Like all of this came up to be true, or you know, even flying cars. I imagine they will be probably true in some way. It's not just like how they imagine it, but
yeah, but you must imagine, since the human being is like trying to reflect this, it's very, it's just words that we're using, as I said, and theories. Because you mentioned before, and this comes to my mind now, you said like, because in a way we are cyborgs already. And I know this term from beginning of the 90s. And it's not our ideas, it's like came from Donna Haraway with the cyborg theory, with the
way
books.
Before.
For example, we are cyborgs. And then in the 90s, you reflected this with the idea, I thought like, why we are cyborgs? Because in our teeth and with our contact lenses and whatever we are already, we have so much extensions in us. Good. Way before, it was different cyborgs, prostheses, like how the machines developed, like what they said in the industrial revolution, how the body is like. Then in war theory, like the when they used handicapped people in tanks, for example, because they were they could sit longer in there, they could like drive with it. It was like part of their body. This is hardcore cyborg theory. Yeah. On the other side, it's real. It was reality. I think where we went in the wrong direction, or what we didn't see coming, in the cyberpunk, it was there. It was visible. But in science, it was not so. We were not so aware. In science, they were still thinking of the extension of the body with prostheses. I don't know, like, as I said, half human, half machine. This kind of extensions, so to say,
like visible
extension.
Real.
I think that was like more the robots, like cloning. And in what I always liked was this, and I often use this also. I don't know which one, like this Schundheftel, we call it, Matt Ruff, for example. They talked about, on this side you are selling pizzas, but on the other side you are the biggest sword fighter in the whole universe. Yeah. Like you could be everything over there. You could change, like you could be all kind of gender. You could be not just male, woman, trans, whatever. Like you could be something that didn't exist before. Yeah. Like you could be you, or you could be something out of many. And this you or this many, they also move, and they produce their own like body language and things like that. And that was cool. Yeah? And I think nowadays, in the what happened then with social media, with new media, was like that in our imagination we traveled much further, technique developed much further, but the body stayed or even went back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, like this is it's total regress in a way, but also progress. I have to say that with, for example, in Instagram, which is fueling people's imagination a lot, because suddenly um, there is this inspiration coming, and also like the aspiration to be something that you're not. Of course, like there are all these negative effects when you compare yourself to other people, but from this there also can come something really interesting. Like I can see like new movement arts like parkour or even breakdance that are developing very very far because people are watching other people doing the same at the other part of the world, achieving like impossible goals. And this also extends human abilities like insanely, I have to say. Like I have the feeling that like those more attractive new movement formats, which again I mentioned, like parkour or even trampoline acrobatics, like things that hasn't been possible before, suddenly people are doing it just because of this social media incentive in a way. So, but then of course I have to say that I have the feeling that this polarizes. Like there are people who, you know, go away from using their bodies, and there are people who extend their use of the bodies to the absolute maximum of human abilities. I have the feeling, but this is what I observe, and I think for majority of people, I think it's still going down. Like we I mean, I see people are sitting, but haven't people always been sitting? Also, that's another question. Like, I mean, like the 9 to 5 jobs, they always existed. I mean, since probably you remember, since I remember, but since you remember for sure.
The 9 to 5 jobs.
Yeah, like where you have to sit. I mean,
yeah, work we in the studio now here in our studio.
I mean, you are
like I'm sitting when we work, like we start again now to rehearse after this like crazy things that happened the last month. And when you normally work, you sit a lot. Like most of the time you sit. As a choreographer, I sit. And I jump up, but then mostly I crawl because my back hurts. I crawl to the dancers, talk to them, and crawl back and sit again. But I think it's also, I mean, what you, if I understood you right now, what you were saying is, again, I think it's methods that we are using, how we entertain ourselves and how we entertain also our business, because you said like this, the breakdance, there is always this positive competition kind of thing. Like I go, you go, I go, you go. I learn something from you. I do this and that. And it's this idea of that you battle yourself into, I don't know, to things that you haven't done before, that you could not imagine even before. I think that the people are more aware about networking and this classical competition of like you have it in economics is in our business. I use the word business with makes me angry because I think it's not really a business. It's more, I like the word scene, and I like the idea of a dance scene. And I think this through the networking, it brings the people not in this kind of battle mode, like I do this and you do this, but like what is really what is the discussion? And this discussion, what is the discussion in our genre? And that brings the genre much further again. And I fall back to this becoming specialist by talking about it, by learning from the other ones, by doing things together, by dancing together, even if it's like solo work.
Yeah. I mean, solo work is a little bit like dancing with your audience in a way. Yeah. I kind of like solo work. I always like to see solo work, I have to say. Like, is this maybe even my favorite, because I started organizing this platform for performances in Vienna. It's called Choreography. It's in Brick 5. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but so what I do with my friends, we invite like pieces from Vienna, but also Austria, and also from around the world. And I always find myself the most interested, the most drawn in when it's like an interesting solo work. I have the feeling it's easier to do an interesting solo work than an interesting duo, and even more than an interesting group piece in a way. I have the feeling that there is so much potential just looking in this one body doing certain things. I don't know, maybe it's just like crooked choreographer's perspective, but
No, I agree with you. I think if it's a solo, I have the feeling you get more, you come closer to the personality, to a personality or a character of a performer, of a person on stage. And it's such the body by itself, the personality is such a complex thing, like to watch it also. It's like that you have to reduce it, I think, to the maximum. And with the solo, you come a little bit closer to this. I also like with group pieces, it's very difficult. Because especially I don't know, I did group pieces for different companies, and it's interesting to see it, to do it once, but basically the longer you work, the more you make one body out of many bodies. Yeah. So you have to go always into context and constellations, and the other one is always there. It's not just one focus. You can make the focus that the theater, you learned to how to bring the attention on one certain point or one certain, I don't know, something on stage. But with a group, it's lots of possibilities that you have there. And when you work, I mean, our last work is called Standalones. And this is exactly what you are saying. It's dealing with this idea of that I'm concentrated on one body and not on the body in the environment of many bodies, or in constellation or in context to the other bodies. It's like about you now at this moment.
Which I think maybe it has to do with some kind of zeitgeist, actually, because perhaps this is something, because with the maybe some backlash to the social media and generally like how connected we are with each other. Maybe that now the individual is something that it's supposed to be expressed, actually.
The individual was always like the main the center of attention, and I also think that the body was the center of attention. It's just a way of, it's a matter of context. And if you use the word zeitgeist, probably yes, but zeitgeist is also something like contemporary. It's always contemporary. Like we are here now, and that's how we reflect it. With Liquid Loft, we mostly we steal topics from the past, we steal ideas from the past, we steal, let's say, sometimes even the whole genre, and we use it as inspiration source or as a basic to go into let's say, another contemporary discussions that we have now. So to say, like we used once the book Locus Solus, for example, which is from 1913, Marcin, also science fiction idea. Then you have, we did a series about Warhol old movies, like how they were thinking, or Baroque ideas often, like old mythology topics of the perfect garden and things like this. The Garden of Earthly Delight, Hieronymus Bosch. So, or the genre of like Velvet Underground. Or then we had, like, it's always like connected to something that was already there, and we take it again, use the method, and then bring it into like try to bring it at least in the contemporary context.
Is it because it works, or is it because, I mean, is it because it's something that's proven that works and therefore you can build on it? Or is it some kind of cultural context that people already know, therefore you can communicate better?
It has many different reasons. It's a good question, but I think, as for me, the main reason is because it interests me. I get inspired by it on one side. On the other side is often, mostly, like with the standalones, the reason was Chile paintings, Egon Schiele, in the Leopold Museum. So you had immediately, you picked out his solo works, for example, were on the body, like the research he did on the body, mostly on his own body, in the mirror or on some certain kind of models. And what he saw, what he brought out of the body, especially in the context to this time, like beginning of, or like of a new century. World War One was like just right in front of the door. I think it's something where you see now a context to nowadays. And this was always like this. Like you see context, they did it already. Like how did they try to solve the problem? Or how advanced have they been at this time? And why is this still here, for example? Is it because the human being lives like this? Is it because we have to breathe, eat shit, fuck, whatever? Is it because we do not develop, or is it because they were already so advanced in their thinking, so into science fiction, that we are living it now? And sometimes it's because it works. As I say, like, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you also want to catch people. You want to get in communication with them. You have to have a communication with them, and so in order to do so, you have to use something that you understand each other.
Yeah, I feel that this is one of the big challenges of choreography, in a way. To how do you find common language? Yes, body is a common language, and yes, we all have bodies, and yes, we are supposed to understand the body or perceive the body of the others, but I think we are so far disconnected that this doesn't work. So, for most people, I imagine. So, like, it's for me, I find it always challenging how to connect with regular audience on the basis of the things that they do understand, like how to give them a situation where they will be able to open for some kind of benefit of doubt. And I think bringing in a context like this, I think it's already, especially in Vienna, in the more artistic, aware circles, it's already, it could be effective, I imagine. Like if you say Warhol, okay, I can imagine, I heard Warhol, probably I can relate to that.
Yeah, but it was actually, in this case, it was even almost going more in the opposite direction. Like it's everybody, as you say, knew Warhol, and mostly you think about things like his brains about I don't know, Mao, Elvis, like everybody has seen a Warhol, Marilyn Monroe, and we tried to avoid the name in advance. I said, like before, I said like no, but nobody knew his like in the beginning, the movies, the ideas of these movies that he did there. Heat, Trash, like Chelsea Girls, things like that, where he worked with the split screen, where you say like this is choreography, this is the way of looking at the body, this is pop art, and that is more interesting than the name Warhol. And of course, as soon as it was in a text, as soon as he was named, everybody just grabbed this topic. And then you say like, okay, what you're trying to do? You try to be Warhol now? And this was
a trap.
It was horrible. Yeah. Like I wish we would have never used this name, for example, for a whole series.
Yeah, it's a danger of this this approach, in a way, like of text in general. I think text is very dangerous because it can reduce what we're doing to words.
Yeah, but this you can do with everything.
Yeah,
like a picture, a photo can be very dangerous, and a word can be even more dangerous. Like one word,
like the title. I mean,
yeah,
that's correct.
The title is very dangerous.
Title is like
also people in the meantime people give a shit about it, which is also good.
Yeah,
like you can name it whatever.
I mean, honestly, title is the only thing that I usually look at as compared to the piece itself. But usually when I see the title, like I want the whole context to be in the title normally, because the text is just usually so bad, so badly written that I don't want to read it.
I don't know. I'm also more. When we did this whole foreign tongue series, where you say like, okay, it's not communication is way beyond like our words communication. It's there, and even if we don't understand each other, we understand more than we think. Than we think, and then you have this the text, for example. We always ask people that and really we trust them. I know they make fantastic texts. It's text that inspires us, and that like that makes it even that make our dance in this direction bigger or extended in this direction. And I love it because it inspires me also like to do something. And most of the people say like, I like you and probably me as well. I go in, I put the program away because I want to make my own opinion, not somebody who like drives me in a certain kind of direction. But it should not drive in a direction. It shouldn't even give you background. It just like it should like you just get the Mehrwert. Like you get more out of it. It elevates the thing, and if the artists say like, look, there is something I can also offer, it's part of the work, it's like on this level, then you have to read it yourself. You cannot just sit there and watch and listen. You have to work.
Yeah, but I feel
then
like
I would use it.
That is often with the contemporary avant-garde choreography, it's all about the text, or most of the work is about the text. Less of the work is about what's happened on stage. So that's why, like, I mean, I'm confronted with a lot of progressive choreography. So I feel that, or at least I also even belong to these circles. So I feel that there is, there is that just the focus is there, and also the way the whole economy about making pieces is set up, like with writing concepts and everything. So it's all about the text in a way. So that's why maybe I just have this huge allergy. I developed an allergy over time.
Text allergy?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And at a certain time in the year when it comes up.
Yeah, it's usually the festival period when it manifests itself. Like honestly, like for me, it's also because I've read so many texts that I was like, oh my god, this is such a nonsense. Like, and if it's nonsense, like make it an obvious nonsense, like that I can see that this is really nonsense and they're really making fun of it. But no, they're serious. They're dead serious. I'm like, oh no. And there is this thing where person just standing there on stage and doing poses. Could be good in a museum though. In a way, I don't know. I don't want to judge too much, but generally there's.
I like poses.
I know.
I'm totally into poses. It's for me as a choreographer. I figured out that in poses I see much more what I want to see in much more choreography than in movements, because I'm such a slow viewer, thinker, receiver, that the best would be they do just slow motions, because then slowly I understand what they're doing.
If it's thought through, and if it's meaningful pose, like I think I also like, because I feel that there are these two directions in there are many, but I could classify like these two directions in choreography, which one is more like movement based, like going away from the form, even formless in a way. So just something passes in front of your eyes and you have the sensation of it, but you cannot grasp it. And the other one would be the more form oriented, where it's like the body's contortion is imprinted in the head and it stays as an image. So I feel I'm always drawn in between those two.
Depends on what you want. I think it's a wide field, and it's not even one wild field, it's many different wild fields. And concerning that, you have to know in which where you belong to. Or what interests you also, like and if you just want to show off, I think your audience recognize quite fast that you're just showing off.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, also you have still time, no? 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So let me just wrap it up quickly. Like, I want to talk about one more thing: the deformation. Like, why are you drawn so much into? You say Egon Schiele, you say cyborg theory, you say what else do you say? Hieronymus Bosch. Like, there's a lot of um, contortion and disjointment, unnatural kind of way of the way body moves. And I'm wondering, like, where did you find yourself um, discovering this aesthetic? Because when I see, for example, the again, I did my research. I did watch a little bit the Klaus Obermeier piece, the one with Klaus Obermeier, the what's his name, Dave, yes, and there you have a very still modern dance solo material in a way. And then at some point you started creating those even like in a certain way scary looking characters. I mean, scary is a way to see it. Of course, it's beautiful, but I'm just wondering, like, what drives you to this area? Is it?
It's pure interest, you know? And I think it just comes up because it's not scary to me, first of all. And like when we work with the dancers, I let them mostly develop characters, and sometimes those characters go into really, really ugly. Like if you just come in and see them, you think like, what the fuck are they doing there? But it's more like it drives them there. They end up there, and if you follow the way, it's not ugly at all. So I think it's just a liberal way of, no, honestly, I can say it's a liberal way of thinking. Some of my friends say like, yeah, you always work with these beautiful bodies. Why don't you just work with like tall, long, fat, whatever, like ugly looking people? And the question is really like, first of all, find them, because it's really interesting to do this.
Yeah.
I think in this case, everybody's beautiful on stage. Yeah. Everybody is beautiful.
I agree.
The more ugly you're looking, the more beautiful, the more interesting you are. Yeah? Whatever ugly means now, I'm really say it like this now. I think also that the I once had it. What comes in my mind is I had a discussion with somebody who just looks at horror movies. Yeah, and I also asked the same question, and this person said like, "This is what you're saying. Yeah, like
it's beautiful.
It's just beautiful, and it's not. I mean, it's the whole context. It's always context. It's like, you know, what do you want to follow? Which kind of emotions do you want to touch? Where do you want to communicate? If I do distortions, it just means like, look, this is also possible. It just opens the range. It becomes a wider bridge and not always like the same thing. And beauty is something, and this we learned from over all this like many years. Beauty is something often now, then it's fashion. It's just fashion, and it's gone. But there is other beauty that stays, and this kind of wide beauty involves everything. Involves like lots of distortion, lots of destruction, lots of granulation, and not always just like the perfect form or the I don't know, the perfect melody or the line or it needs, I think beauty always needs to have the opposite into it. It's like when you see it and then there is a needle in it and pick it
a little bit this imperfection.
Same word. What is perfect?
Yeah.
Like same like beauty, or like what is art? What is good? Good is if it involves bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good.
It's like if you don't have a contrast, you cannot see it. Like
yeah. You need the contrast and the context.
Yeah,
contrast and context.
Great. Maybe you just can say a few words what you're working on, because I'm really curious. You make a new production. When it's gonna be the premiere? I heard that you're gonna have a premiere among those difficult period?
Well, it's not so clear yet. I mean, there is plans to do it. It's supposed to be in October, 10th of October, and we have the great luck, like compared to many other companies, that there is this time slot. Impulse supported us concerning that. We're supposed to come up. You have this 15 years anniversary this year, and we were planning to do two restage two pieces from the past and to come up with a new work plus a book presentation. So everything was this year. And then there was the lockdown, and since then we are basically waiting. I did some Zoom rehearsals. Also funny, huh?
Zoom rehearsals.
Yeah, but just for certain. Not. I think we talked more about doing it than really doing it. Yeah.
I see.
We did some for some certain little projects. We did something on Zoom.
Yeah, I can imagine with like your, yeah, I can imagine this is possible, but it's probably really hard
Yeah.
to do Zoom rehearsal. I have a choreographer friend that is actually doing the whole Zoom project, so she's rehearsing with her dancers over Zoom, and it's like it's a new thing now.
Or the old thing, because it was so like flashy that you were just into Zoom, and that could be. I mean, it was interesting what people made out of it, like that they all came up with ideas, and like also the online workshops. It was great suddenly, like. And it's another possibility. Internet was always here, but now it became such a normality that you could like do it here and there. But also, we in our work we often reflected this kind of new media idea. So you involve the material of doing it into the content.
The making of.
Yes, so making of, or you reflect what does Zoom with the body, for example, and then it becomes a piece. So in this case, it was interesting.
Yeah.
There was also like one work with a little short solo with Ook. We rehearsed for camera, so it was interesting to have him in his flat and me sitting in my flat and seeing what the camera sees when he does this. So in this case, it was interesting.
So in this case, it's very outdated in a way. Like it is a thing from the past, because you say you used to be experimenting in this area. Well, back then, I don't know, before it was cool, before it was the norm.
Concerning cool, I don't know what is cool or what not cool.
Okay,
I see what other people tell me what's cool, but also since years we try to reflect new media and social media, but I hear it. I don't do it. I look at it, but I'm never so much into it also. So concerning that, you have to ask other people what's cool.
Yeah, I think this is a healthy way to be in a way. But I always think like it with the young generations, for example, like how to connect with the new audience. I always think the criteria of cool is a good criteria to talk to somehow involve the young people. Always, I think.
Yeah, it's also important.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that was it, I guess. Thank you so much, Chris, for all the really interesting perspectives. I feel that I always wanted to get a little bit more into understanding how you're doing it, and I feel that I can understand a little bit more.
You could explain it to us what we're doing, yeah. Well, that would be good.
Absolutely. I can do that. You can invite me to your rehearsal.
Yeah, and maybe then you can show it to the dancers, because then because they don't listen to me anymore. As soon as I start to talk, they turn away.
Seriously.
Yes.
That is a good sign. But that means that you're kind and they feel comfortable.
No, I don't know if I hope so that they feel comfortable. That we work for such a long time together that there must be this respect. We're friends basically, so
Yeah, well, that's always a good sign. That's always a good sign.
Possibility to
'Cause-
keep them coming.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise,
Yeah, as we said, we don't just do it for the money. Yeah.
I mean, if for the money you can do other things, I feel like I
Broadcasts.
a podcast for the money. Come on, it's another like very
Broadcast.
a broadcast. Broadcasting is interesting. I have to say that
Broadway.
I'm kind of interested into like how can we actually live broadcast performances, live broadcast rehearsals. Like this is my new area that I want to get into. I already have some gear to do it, but I still need to find people interested into actual broadcasting. Myself, I'm interested, but you know, there's the content is the most important, of course. Like, and if I can reiterate myself, it's not that interesting. But like
I think you're going very much in this direction already.
Yeah, but I love when something is happening live. Like when you can see it from other worlds, but you know it's live. If it's recorded, it's different. But if you know it's live, it gives a different feeling.
This is live now. And even if it's recorded, it's still live. And I think with nowadays technology, you have the possibility to make live recording or pre-recorded, you know?
No, I feel it was always like this with like the, especially in the socialist times. With the
no, I mean, I think if you think like the first, what is it called, the megaphones, when they did when they recorded the whole atmosphere, and now for like Andy Berger, our musician who does the whole liquid loft sound environment. He is, for him, there's nothing bigger than to catch this atmosphere from this time when they had you know, when the sound is not like just collecting my voice, but everything around, like the whole field recording, and plus the sound of the device by itself.
Yeah, the noise, the humming,
everything. Yeah, the needle on the like. Yeah, I mean.
But do you know that? Oh, I don't know. Should I record?
That was it. Thank you.
Yeah. But do you know that actually the way we nowadays think of gramophone is actually in a way not how they sounded like, because the scratches are coming from the deterioration of the material. So they didn't used to scratch that hard.
It's supposed to be like, good.
It's like fake, like it's popularized by the movies that they were imitating this era, but they just took the discs that were already pre-scratched in a way. So
now I have to say there's different. I think there is different scratches, because the one is also these microphones they also Richtmikrofone, they already like for talking, for recording, you're well balanced.
Well, not this is not, I mean, this is a cheap microphone, but
no, okay, but in general you have these possibilities, and I think in all this sound science, people are totally aware of this. Like everything is you can filter out sounds and add other ones. You can do everything basically.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating world, and I really don't want to go into the world of sound because I'm so scared. Like it's so much in the sound world. I love the light world, like the light design, everything like that. I do this, but the sound world is just on another level. Like there's so many variables. It's crazy with the sound, and it's like, and you see like the wave, and it's supposed to be different than this wave, but like it sounds completely different, but it looks the same. It's like, I know, no, forget about it.
Yeah, what I mean, Andy is really like, he's the doctor of sound waves. But what is horrible for me, if I see I don't know what this is peak or
you're talking about the sound wave?
No,
this?
No, what is the program you're using?
Audacity.
So, but if I see the what I hate is like, I mean, you can see it, and that's how you can cut it. Yeah. But to listen to it, you always have to. There is no way of cut it down. Like you have to listen to it. Like you cannot. Like I can scroll through in the video and say like, okay, I go here and do this, And you can also cut it there, like you can say like, over this, I like, but you have to, it's always a matter of context where it comes. Sound, you cannot just
I know what you mean. Yeah,
scroll through.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.